Day 19, displaying data with graphs, finding the range, mean, median, and mode, and the meaning of probability. We're going to start today's lesson with displaying data and graphs. So statistics is the branch of mathematics that deals with the collection and organization of numerical facts or data in order to analyze them and draw conclusions. Data are often organized using tables and represented visually with graphs. Different kinds of graphs are used for different purposes. A bar graph is used to show comparisons. The data are presented using bars of different lengths, which correspond to the number they represent. The numbers are determined by the scale marked in the horizontal or vertical axis. The bar graph below shows the airfares between New York City and some popular destinations. To compare a second set of data, for example, airfares from Boston, a second set of bars can be added to form a double bar graph. A line graph is used to show trends or changes over time. The line graph below shows the number of tornadoes reported, decade by decade. The jagged line indicates that part of the scale is omitted. To compare a second set of data, for example, tornadoes in Canada, a second line graph can be added to form a double line graph. A line graph is read from left to right. We have an increase if our line is going from left to right and is rising. We have a decrease if from left to right it is going down, and then no change if it is a horizontal line. A circle graph is a display of data in which a circle represents the whole quantity and sectors of the circle represent parts of the whole. In the circle graph shown, each sector represents the part of the total vacation expenses paid for that item. The circle graph is used to emphasize the size of each part in relation to the whole. In a pictograph, a symbol is used to represent a quantity. A key shows what quantity the symbol represents. Pictographs are used to show comparisons. One disadvantage of pictographs is that it can be difficult to estimate the value of partial symbols. Although graphs cannot always present data as accurately as tables can, they make it easy to grasp relationships at a glance. So if we look at some examples that are we're going to just move into finding the range, mean, median, and mode. There are some important statistics that are used to analyze the data collected in a study. The range is the difference between the highest and the lowest values in a set of data. The range tells if the data are closely grouped together or widely spread out. The next three statistics describe the center of a set of data and are known as measures of central tendency. The mean of a set of data is the arithmetic average. To find the mean, add all the values and divide by the number of values. The median is the middle value or the average mean of the two middle numbers when the data are arranged in order from least to greatest. The mode is the data value that appears most often in the set. A data set may have no mode, one mode, or more than one mode. You need to remember though when you're doing the mode, if you don't have any mode, then you would not put 0, you just put no mode. If we look at sampling a population is the entire group of objects or people involved in a statistical study. Often, it is impossible to study every member of a large group. Therefore, statistical studies usually look at a sample, a smaller group that represents the population. The process of choosing the sample population is called sampling. It is essential that the sample collected represents the entire population and is unbiased. A random sample is usually the most fair kind of sample. When we interpret data from a graph or a table, we want to read the title and the labels. We want to know what the numbers mean and be aware of units. We pay attention to the scale on the graph. If the scale does not start at 0, we check to see if a break is shown. We check the key for pictograph. We check graphs with multiple lines or bars for relationships between points. We make predictions about this data that go beyond what is shown, and we estimate values between the values given. Be aware that statistics are often used to mislead. When interpreting data, be alert for the following misuses. The scale used is inappropriate to the data displayed. The measure of central tendency used is not a good description of the data. The titles or labels do not provide enough information, or the visual display of the data creates a false impression. With probability. A probability, P, is a number that describes how likely it is that a particular event, E, will occur. A sample space is a set of all possible results or outcomes for some activity or experiment. Each of the outcomes is equally likely. An event is any part of the sample space. An event may consist of 0 outcomes, 1 outcome, or more than 1 outcome. The outcomes of an event are called favorable outcomes. The probability that an event will occur is the ratio of the number of favorable outcomes to the number of possible outcomes in the sample space. The probability of the event E is equal to P of E. It's just the number of favorable outcomes over the number of possible outcomes. The probability of an event that is certain to occur is 1. The probability of an event that is impossible is 0. The sum of the probability of all the outcomes in a sample space is always 1. So the probability of E is equal to 1 minus the probability of not E. Probabilities can be expressed as fractions, decimals, or percents. Here you want to go in and look at them just to give yourself a better understanding to how to work with some of these problems. When you're working with your mean, your median, your mode, your range, you got to follow your rules. So find the average, find the one that most occurs, find the middle number when they're put in order from least to greatest, find the difference between the highest and lowest number. With these examples, if we look at you don't have any practice. So